Hello, everyone. Welcome to Watch Movies Not Film Festival 2024 Talk Tech Talk. My name is John. Joining us today, we have EDMUND YEO. His film YASMIN SAN will be screening under Asian Vision program at the Watch Movies Not Film Fest this year. So EDMUND YEO began his journey in filmmaking in 2008, starting with writing and directing short films. So in 2009, he produced and edited Wu Mingjing's Woman on Fire Looks for Water, which screened at 66 Venice International Film Festival. And in 2010, Yeo produced, co-wrote, and edited Wu Minjing's The Tiger Factory, which premiered at the Cannes Festival. And in
Yeah.
2014, Yeo's debut feature film, River of the Exploding Durians, premiered in competition at the Tokyo International Film Festival,
Mm.
marking the first Malaysian film invited to the main competition. He returned to the Tokyo International Film Festival in 2017 with two films. His sophomore film, Accurate We the Death, in the main competition, and the documentary Yasmin San. So both of these films were in Tokyo International Film Festival in 2017. And he won the
Mm.
Best Director Award for Accurate We the Death. In year, his film Malu, which is a Japanese-Malaysian co-production, followed by his latest feature film, Moonlight Shadow. So this year marks the 15th anniversary of Yasmin Ahmad's passing. We are privileged to reflect on the creative legacy of this legendary filmmaker through EDMUND's YASMIN SAN. Without further ado, let's get started. So once again, welcome, EDMUND. It's an honor to have you here with us today. So to start it off, let's talk about some backstories at the production of YASMIN SAN. Let
Mm.
us start it with a simple one. What motivated you to start this project?
Okay. So Yasmin San was a documentary I made in 2017. I think we started shooting around 2016. It wasn't meant to be a Yasmin Ahmad project at first. What happened was that in 2016, Japanese director Yuki Sada Isao, my friend, he came to Malaysia to shoot a short film. So I was producing for him. And uh, the beautiful thing about it was that he wanted to shoot in Malaysia due to the fact that he had seen Yasmin Ahmad's films and that he wanted an actress who looked like Sharifah Amani. Then I was like, why don't you just go for the real Sharifah Amani? So basically, the project came together, and Sharifah Amani was in that short film. Then there's this Japanese superstars, Nagase Masatoshi, the late great Sugawa Masahiko, which you will see in the documentary. Like there is a document of a short film, a Japanese short film that was being shot in Malaysia. So I was supposed to do a making of to document this wonderful Japanese Malaysian co-production. I thought it was a very beautiful coincidence that we seemed connected, and we were all brought here due to our connections to Yasmin Ahmad. And I felt that was the beauty of cinema, like the fact that how people of such different backgrounds and nationalities could end up coming to the same place at that particular moment, shoot one film. So I started interviewing everyone, and I felt that as we were shooting the film, the memory of Yasmin Ahmad became stronger and stronger. It led me into this odyssey and adventure where I wanted to dig out more. Like I wanted to know more of everyone's memories of Yasmin Ahmad and how, like, even though she had passed away, her works had been such an enduring legacy. So that's pretty much what the documentary of Yasmin San, like, it kind of changed direction and became more and more about everyone's memories of Yasmin Ahmad and how her works left behind such a legacy in both Malaysia and Japan. Yeah, so that's how the project came together. It was very freestyle. It started out as the making of a Japanese project. Then it gradually became more and more about Yasmin Ahmad, which hopefully you can feel from the work itself.
Right.
Mhm.
And I guess one of the most intriguing part and the details that people would like to know is, since there are so many precious images and sound materials from in
Mm.
Yasmin San, How do you collect them? Like, is there any other sources that you reach out to, or just in general, how did you collect all of those materials?
Yeah, I reached out to Yasmin's family, especially her sister Orchid, uh, um, and also to the Yasmin Ahmad Museum at Kong Heng. So thankfully, they were very supportive with this project. So they lent me a lot of very invaluable photos and sound recordings of Yasmin's poems, which I used in the end of the documentary. All the notes that she had, even the like those precious Betacam videos that she had, like all the private family videos that they shot over the years. So at the time, like they only had the tapes, but it wasn't digitized yet because it's very hard to digitize all these old videos. So I got hold of the tapes from the family, and I found a place where I could digitize the videos. It was quite fun, it's like to see Yasmin in like different stages of her life back then, just having fun at home with her family and all this. So that's how I got like some support from Yasmin's side. Yeah. Mhm.
So I guess it also even though with all these materials and the stuff that you can source from different
Mhm.
parties, I guess it also serves as a difficulty in itself, right? After you got all these materials, you got all these footages, you still have to find a way to piece them all together accordingly. Like, how do you want to create this?
Yeah.
So,
Because
which
we had like 7 or 8, no, I think like 7 or 8 hours worth of footages, like maybe around almost 10 hours of footages, like to go
uh,
through, like to find like the right parts, to use throughout the documentary. So yeah. So that took a while, like a couple of months. Yeah.
right, which
Mhm.
brings me to the next question. Since this documentary was made after Yasmin Ahmad's passing, were there any obstacles or challenges, any significant ones during the whole filming process? Like, which part of it require most effort to adjust, and how long did the entire production from pre-production to post-production take?
I think putting everything together, I mean, the shoot itself wasn't that hard. It's just all these interviews that we did. But once we had all the materials and from the interviews and from the making of footages that we shot and from the private family footages that I got from the old video tape from the beta tapes. So piecing them together, that was the most challenging part. Like I said, it's almost like a curation, I had to curate the things together. Um, I think at the same time, I wanted to be respectful to everyone involved in the documentary because it's pretty crazy the fact that it started out as a making of documentary of something else and it became like a Yasmin Ahmad thing. But I felt that in the end it was pretty much a diary for all of us, to remember that particular moment in time and how we were all shaped by Yasmin Ahmad's films. So there were a couple of challenges, like it was kind of like a detective work where I had to find who has this, who had that, where are the videos, who should I ask, But thankfully, the people I've met, they were very helpful and so I guess the journey itself, as hard as it was worth it because to be able to it's I mean, well, with all these great people. Yeah.
Well,
Mm.
like you said, it started out as a making of, but then again, it turns into a whole different journey in itself. Like,
Yeah.
everyone's in this together, and then, with more and more that you dive into this topic, you dive into the life of Yasmin Ahmad. So at this point, how do you think this film's production differs from your previous work?
I mean, as you might know, like this is probably the only feature length documentary that's on my filmography. Like all my previous stuff had been fiction. So the process of putting a documentary together, it is different. It's more different. So it was a learning process like throughout the whole thing. Like, I mean, of course, all productions they are learning processes. It's just that the documentary felt like a very distinctive, different experience compared to everything else. So yeah, I felt the fact that I was doing all these interviews and appearing on screen, which I was a bit reluctant to, but I guess I had to. I mean, I got to try like different things from my other films, because even the cinematic language is different. Like, I mean, of course, like I did apply some of my previous techniques, filmmaking techniques on the documentary, and I don't really know whether, I mean, there have been a lot of like documentaries that I've liked, or essay films. They are non-fiction pieces. They're not like traditional like talking heads documentaries. So I guess I was trying all these type of different formats to present this memory of Yasmin. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So with everything that you just said earlier, you mentioned earlier, it's definitely a journey that worth taking, and not only us, but I believe to many others as well, especially you and Yasmin's family. They'll see it as a very, very memorable one to carry on Yasmin's legacy. So let's move on now to film screening at Tokyo International Film Festival. What were the reactions from the Japanese audiences? Like, were they what you expected?
I mean, it was 7 years ago. So I mean, I remember very distinctively that because Sharifa Amani was sitting next to me during the screening, and once it ended, I remember she was crying, and then she was like, "Oh, it's glad that we did this," and I guess at the moment, I felt that it's worth it, like it was super meaningful to have the documentary world premiered at Tokyo Film Festival, due to the fact that Yasmin Ahmad had her breakthrough, her international breakthrough in the Tokyo Film Festival. Technically, Tokyo Film Festival was the international film festival that discovered Yasmin Ahmad. Like it was where Sepat premiered. That was where Sepat won its award, and that also kickstarted this whole Malaysian new wave. And so Japan and Tokyo Film Festival had a special meaning to Yasmin Ahmad. And the fact that this documentary was also premiered at the place that was so special to her, I guess that made it extra meaningful to the audiences who had loved her. Like all her films had premiered at the Tokyo Film Festival. So I guess it was quite an honor to have the documentary there that year. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So the reactions from audiences, they can differ sometimes, but what's the message you aim to convey to the audience through Yasmin San? What's the main takeaway you want them to, have?
I think there were a few things. Like one, I wanted to show that the part of Yasmin is more like her legacy and what she left behind, and how her works were eternal, that you could see from Sharifa Amani like how much Yasmin Ahmad had shaped her, had influenced her. The fact that Sharifa Amani got involved in doing Sapat, and perhaps that was a film that made her become interested in cinema and making films and acting and all this stuff. You could see like how even Japanese directors, someone as famous and renowned as Yuki Sada Isao, like to know about our country through the cinema of Yasmin Ahmad. I think it was a reminder of the power of cinema, not just Yasmin's, but the fact that great cinema is something that will live forever. And I think at the same time, because I was also portraying I was also capturing both the film shoot that was going on, the short film that was being shot in Malaysia by the Japanese crew members, and also with footages of Yasmin's previous film sets. I think Yasmin's film sets were very special because they were all defined by joy. You can see that people who were involved in the film shoots were all happy and singing together, and they were all like they were a family. And that's actually the same thing I believe in film. Like I always feel that every time when I make a film, once we were involved in this, we are family. This is a feeling that's very hard to convey. But it's a connection between people who had worked together on one film. That's a very special feeling. So if it's something worthwhile and we were all passionate about what we were doing, and it's something like Yasmin's works, it can endure, and it's something that can change us too. It can shape us. It will become like a very important part of our memory. These were the many things that I was trying to convey with Yasmin San. These were the film sets, the film shoots that Yasmin had, the film shoots that we had. It didn't have to be toxic. There wasn't a lot of screaming and yelling. It was all a film made with love and joy. And what's wrong with that? We the most great cinema can be made with love and joy.
Right. With what you said, it sounds like there's a lot of work and efforts that has been put into this film, and I'm pretty sure a lot of it is worth it, not only just for you, I'm pretty sure for the team as well who make this film possible. So, well, thank you for your insights, and let's now shift our attention to the connection between you and Yasmin and Ahmad, because like you said earlier, from what you learn and you experience, there's this special dynamic, there's this special bond with Yasmin and on her set especially. Can you tell us what's your personal connection with Yasmin Ahmad, and like how did you come to know her?
Like many people, I first knew about Yasmin Ahmad because of Sepet. Especially when Sepet won that award at the Tokyo Film Festival. I think that was like 2005. So at the time, I was studying in Australia. I was like thinking of wanting to become a filmmaker, and hearing the fact that a Malaysian director had just won an award in a historical film festival at Tokyo. I'm like, whoa, that's amazing, So, and I guess when Sepet came back to Malaysia and began screening, it caused quite a big impact. Like many people I knew were talking about it. People who usually wouldn't watch local Malaysian films started to talk about it, and they watch it, they talk about it. They finally saw something on screen that felt like a realistic depiction of their own lives. There's nothing stylized or fake or exaggerated about Yasmin's film. It felt so real, so it meant so much to everyone who saw it. All these jokes, all these everyday lives. So yeah, I actually saw the film on the plane while flying back from Australia to Malaysia. So I guess it was quite poetic, that. And I like many people, filmmakers like me, we were inspired by Yasmin and her generation of filmmakers, who that at that time, like they started having their films like around different film festivals and such. Like it made us realize that, anyone can make films, everyone can tell their personal stories. We are not restricted by rules, like rigid rules. So that was around like the mid 2000s. That was later because that would be remembered as the Malaysian New Wave, where there was like a group of filmmakers who appeared. So for me, I guess, wow, all these things are possible. I'm looking at this filmmakers, like, it made me want to work harder and make more films. So that was my connection with Yasmin's films. So yes, I followed her work. But actually, only Muksin was the film that I saw. That was the only Yasmin Ahmad film I saw on the big screen. But it was a memorable experience too. Muksin, so on the big screen, I'm like, wow, that's amazing, so beautiful, and this depiction of a young adolescent first love, So during the time and after Sepet and until her untimely passing in 2009, like almost every year, Yasmin made a film. And it was amazing. It was 2005, she had Sepet. 2006, she had Gubra. 2007, she had like Muksin. 2008, Mualaf. 2009, Talent Time. So each year there was a film by Yasmin Ahmad. This productivity is it's amazing because like they were all very personal films, with a very distinctive and special Yasmin Ahmad touch, so in a very short amount of time, she left behind a very cool legacy, for everyone.
Right.
Have I met her personally? I'll tell you, I have to admit that in truth, I've never met her face to face before. So many people were shocked, like the fact that I've never met Yasmin Ahmad.
Yeah,
before.
like me too. Like I thought you would have at least once or twice.
All I had with Yasmin was a very short phone call. So I did, like I was doing a pre-production for another TV movie project that I was producing maybe in 2007, 2008. And I was asked by the director to make a phone call to Yasmin Ahmad to ask for her recommendations for actors. So it was a very short 5 to 10 minute conversation. That's it. So I guess for me, that was why like doing this documentary felt so meaningful to me, because like at the same time, I was discovering more and more about Yasmin, even though I've never met her. Of course, people would ask me questions like, why, you have never met her, that's not, how dare you make a documentary about Yasmin Ahmad, like if you have never met her. But I'm like, there are many people who have never met any historical figures from the past, and I guess documentaries, we are it's all about perspectives.
Right.
For me, it's my perspective of Yasmin Ahmad, like because I don't know her personally, I dare not go too into her personal lives, because I felt that that is a story or perspective for other filmmakers to tell. For me, I knew people who remembered her and loved her films, So I felt that that was the direction of, that was the perspective of Yasmin Ahmad and my direction, So yeah.
Yeah. From our very limited knowledge, not only she sounded like an interesting person, but someone who is willing to listen to you, and vice versa, right? With that said, does Yasmin Ahmad hold any particular symbol or influence your work in any way, shape, or form?
It's hard to say. I mean, I feel that many people would think that our works are very different. Perhaps we have very different tastes and sensibilities in terms of cinema. So I wouldn't exactly say that I'm Yasmin Ahmad's successor or something like that. I'm more influenced by her spirit, her determination, and the stories that she wanted to tell, but not necessarily the stories she told. You know what I mean? So it's like so watching her films, like they were so humanistic. They capture our everyday lives like so clearly, So it's just something that made me realize that, my personality, my background, they are very different from Yasmin. We are also from different generations, like but we should be personal, like with the stories that we tell, like even when I make films in Japan, I make films because I've been to Japan, and I spend half of my time in Japan, so they are just as personal to me as well. So it's pretty much her determination and her spirit and her selflessness, her love for those around her. The fact that everyone who worked with her is like a family. Those were the things that totally influenced me, of course. I don't know why we have to be so miserable when we are making films, but we should be making films with love and joy, and and being part of a family. So people sometimes they're like, why do you always do you watch too much Fast and Furious? Always using the word like family for the films, for the team that I work with. But I said, but we are like at that particular point of time, like those people who make films with me, like they were my chosen family, so why not? And I believe these were connections that I cherish, just like how people cherish their connections working with Yasmin Ahmad, so yeah, that was her main influence to
Well
me.
said. Well said. Well said. After making this documentary, what do you think are the biggest differences and also similarities between feature film and documentaries, like whether in mindset or in form?
I guess it kind of helped because before that and during Yasmin San, I was doing Akarat, which was a feature film using a real life incident as the background. It was about the Rohingya migrant crisis. My first film, River of Exploding Durians, which I made a few years earlier, was sort of about the Linus rare earth plant. So back then, like the stuff that I've done had always been a mixture of, it's not just fully fictional. There had always been references to real life issues, like, references to history, so everything I've done, even then, like there was a lot of researching and journalist stuff involved, the detective stuff, which I thought is very fun. So I felt doing a documentary is more like a detective, it's even more detective effort, that you use for the previous feature films. Fully like there were some preparations and warm up with my previous stuff that allowed me to do Yasmin San. I guess because like there were lots of real life, real people involved in this thing, so it's not just me trying to push a narrative. It's me trying to share a lot of real people's memories and stories. So I think that felt a bit different from the previous and stuff that made all the stuff that I've done after that, after Yasmin San, because I went back to doing like two more feature films like after that. They were all like fiction. So yeah, I guess that's always been something risky because like I wanted to make sure that they are real, like but even though they are my point of view, like I don't think there's absolute truth in documentaries because ultimately they are the perspective and point of view of the filmmaker, but the information and stuff that I'm conveying, I felt that I need to be more responsible and careful with what I was showing. What can I show about Yasmin? What can I not show about Yasmin? So there's some stuff that I have to protect. So I mean the interviews, some of the interviews were quite emotional, like especially when I was interviewing Yasmin's parents. I felt that I had a responsibility to, not I don't want to sound like a saint and say that I'm trying to protect everyone, but I do make sure that we are in a safe environment to share our memory of Yasmin. So yeah.
There's always
One thing I want to point out is that it's definitely harder to edit documentaries. I did all my films, but I have to say that Yasmin San was definitely way more challenging.
right.
Like I said, it had a lot to do with, it's like curating information and images. It's not like where I'm trying to tell a story, to find the best way to tell a story, but this one is more like I've been collecting all these different materials, which some are not made by myself, they are like old family videos and stuff. So many things were beyond my control. So how could I shape them, So it's a very different set of challenges. And it took a while to edit it.
Your works are often noted for their literary and aesthetic qualities. How do you maintain your creative vitality and sensitivity?
Firstly, I read a lot. I mean, I've loved cinema like since I was a kid, but I've been reading like books. So I used to consume like a lot of literature and comics. I do all this stuff. I mean, I like doing them because like I always find inspiration in them. like it keeps my mind like moving. So, I always go to a cafe and, like carry a book around and it's just something I make myself do like a lot, just to keep reading. And so I guess the literary qualities of my films had a lot to do with my personal passion in literature. And also the fact that the literary influences too, of course, they don't just really come from my own life or my own emotions, but they also come from like like films I've seen and also books that I've read, stories I've read. For me, that's always this joy of finding stories around me. I pick my books really randomly, there's no particular like genre that I want to restrict myself to, like I would just like, go to a bookshop or read about read book reviews, and it could be from anywhere, like it could be a Japanese novel or it could be like Latin American or American or wherever. So that's always this constant search for stories. I'm playing these stories in my mind and like many times like I do get inspired by what I've read, and it might not even be something from the book, it's just that reading it, the act of reading or listening to a story would give me some images that might not be related to the story, but it's something that I would end up putting on my films, So for me, it's never enough. I always wanted to keep telling stories, wherever it is. That's why I make films in Malaysia and Japan, and ideally, I would love to tell stories anywhere, be it Europe or an English language film or a Korean film or China or wherever. For me, films I watched were my window to the rest of the world. There were all these countries that I couldn't go to, but I only got to know them through the films that I saw, like let's say Chinese films, I didn't go to China until I was like almost 20. But before that, I was watching like Chinese films, from Zhang Yimou or whoever, so that my imagination of China came from films, my imagination of Japan came from like comics or films or a series, so I thought it would be cool, like to make films like anywhere, tell stories anywhere, to realize that there's these emotions are universal and love, love is same everywhere, be it in Europe or be it in Latin America or wherever, So I love surrounding myself with creative people who are probably smarter than me because I'm afraid of becoming stagnant. I do look forward to like book recommendations or film recommendations or TV recommendations or whatever, just so that I can check them out. And I guess it's always about staying curious of what's going on around me and what's going on, because there's always so much to learn. Doing what we do, it's lifelong. I am going to be a lifelong student. I'm not gonna like, I'm done learning. I'm like a master. That's once you say something like that, that's crazy. That's impossible. Like even Martin Scorsese in his 80s, being one of the greatest filmmakers alive, or ever. To him, he's still a student. Like still learning things. And I guess that's the beauty. Like I do love these adventures of making films. Like to learn like new stuff. To meet people I've never met, places I've never gone to. Without YASMIN San, of course, I would have never known that much about YASMIN or connect with YASMIN's family or her old colleagues, her old friends. Definitely. So yeah, that's how I keep staying hungry.
One thing I like what you said earlier is, being a lifelong student, you have to admit the fact that we are always learning and we need to be learning constantly. Like what you said earlier, you tend to film in Malaysia and Japan. So how do you approach cross-border production given your frequent travels between Japan and Malaysia?
So I think international co-productions, cross-cultural, cross-border filmmaking, it's very tricky. Like the recent stuff that I've been producing for Wu Mingjin, like we have been working a lot with Indonesia. Our
Mm.
last two films, Stone Turtle and the 2 years ago, and the upcoming the Fox King. We have been working. It's a co-production with Indonesia. We For the last 10 years, we have been doing our post-production in Thailand. Even with my Japanese films, I do my post-production in Thailand. So I think we kind of need a lot of empathy.
Mm.
And we do things this way, like why can't they do things my way? Because it doesn't work in such a manner. So in Japan, like you can't just bring the Malaysian style to Japan. That's like visiting someone's house. That person said, you kind of have to take off your shoes, but no, I don't care. I don't take off my shoes at home. I'm gonna wear my shoes, and So I think it's a form of like respecting and understanding and accepting and having the empathy to understand other cultures. Because like if we force ourselves at how we work, like forcing our own culture, how people work, we are not giving them the freedom to operate properly. Like in a casual way, we are not letting them cook. Because let them cook because they are masters.
Right.
At what they do. Let them a comfortable situation where everyone can cook properly.
Right.
So I'm very blessed that the fact that I've been working with people of different countries, I have been able to learn about them and know about them, and of course, there's
Yeah.
definitely conflict and culture shock, and whoa, it's like how wow are they having like 8-9 hour production meetings, nonstop, in Japan, they do this stuff like it's like do we have to plan every single shot and draw the map like
So do you find it, and actually, do you find it any easier? I mean, consider how often, how frequent you travel between countries. Do you find it any easier each time you get?
it gets easier because there's less culture shock involved. Like, kind of
Mm.
know what to do, like to navigate through the way they work. I mean, even my upcoming project, like it might involve like Taiwanese, it might involve like people in Hong Kong and all this stuff. So they are fresh to me too. It's still so it's a learning process.
Right.
It does get easier and easier once you work a lot more with in international projects. Like I mean, I can see, especially in the last like 5-6 years, Southeast Asian cinema, have become more collaborative between countries. So you can see like even in recent years, like many Malaysian films, even Tiger Stripes
Mm.
or Midsummer, Snow in Midsummer, and all these films, they were not made only in Malaysia, only by Malaysians. Like there were a lot of countries involved in these projects.
Right.
And but I think that's the beauty, like you're bringing different perspectives, different expertise, different backgrounds. In everyone gets to cook differently.
Right. Because
All this point.
what do you think is the biggest challenge for young filmmakers in Malaysia? And if you could give them one piece of advice, just one piece of advice to refine their craft, what would it be?
I would say read more,
Right.
read more books, because ultimately what we are doing is a form of storytelling,
Mm.
and so what's wrong with finding stories everywhere? Of course, there's always this desire to tell my own stories, because I mean, if you don't really have the patience to read a book, are you sure you have the patience to read a script?
Well
Or
said.
I know that there are many filmmakers now, young people. They might not just focus on cinema. They want to do like TikTok and
Mm.
YouTuber. The truth is, I have nothing against any. I feel that everyone should do what they love to do. They should. If this is the medium that they love, they're all different platforms, different mediums. It's like I want to be a doctor, but you can be a neurologist, you can be like a brain surgeon, a psychiatrist, or whatever. I feel they're all different stuff. But just be the best at what you do. Like if you want to be a TikToker, just be more curious and make great stuff that makes you different from everyone else. Like if you want to make Instagram videos, same thing. Like if you want to do cinema, uh are you sure like your stuff is that original? Maybe you'll know more like if you see more references around you, more books, more films. Don't just connect Just don't just limit yourself to whatever is shown in cinema right now on Netflix. Just, you know, if you're more curious and look at older stuff, you know, or more random, you know, ooh, I'm gonna pick a French film, black and white French film today. I'm gonna pick a Russian film tomorrow. You know, I want to pick a Taiwanese film, you know, there's no limitation. Like you know, I don't think we should be intimidated by subtitles since we are Malaysians. We are so used to seeing like rows of subtitles on our screens,
Right.
you know, like yeah.
Before we wrap this up, I have one last question for you, Edmund. Can you share with us any recent topic or any themes that you are currently exploring and that you are interested in making in your work or your near future work?
Actually, I'm preparing like multiple different projects. Like I think maybe there's something that I learned recently. Like it's more fun to have a few different stories in development. You know, like so I have some Japanese story going on, a Japanese project going on. There's a Malaysian project going on. You know, I think it makes me less bored. You know, it's not that I'm multitasking and doing all at the same time. You know, it's just that let's say for example, I have like 4 different stories. You know, like I'm alternating between them, like in different, like these 2 weeks I'm only working on this one. Another 2 weeks I'm working on this one. You know, like if there's more progress with this, I'll work only on this for the next 2 months. You know, but I think it just keeps things fresh. You know, once I get bored with this, I'll move to the other one. And I felt that the beauty of this is that when I'm doing, let's say, story A, I'm getting all this practice and experience and learning process. Like what I learned from A, I can use on B, story B. What I learned from story B, you know, I can use on story C. You know, it helps each other. Like because if I'm only working on story A, it gets very dangerous. Like oh, you know, like so dry. Like I said, like so dry. Like I'm only working on this story for the next like 3-4 years. You know, so yeah, I'm still exploring. Like I've been looking through a lot of there's a Japanese novel. Like I'm trying to pursue the copyright to do it. I'm also doing a Malaysian film. It's set in the 60s and 70s Malaysia, based on a novel that I randomly read last year. So that's the beauty of random picking. You know, like someone mentioned a book to me, told me that's beautiful. I've never heard of the book before. You know, I over the weekend I bought the book, I read it. I'm like, whoa, you know, it's like it's set in Malaysia, like during the 60s up until the 80s. You know, it's by this wonderful author. It's an adventure because like by reading her novel, I started reading her other stuff, like her short stories and all this stuff, and I found like all these cool things that she had done. You know, like so that's also something I'm exploring. I'm also doing like a dystopian sci-fi thing. You know, so they're all very different projects. Like I'm also doing a vampire thingy. You know, like set in you know, during the emergency period. Like you know, so yeah. As you can see, they're all like very different genres. Like but I it's fun. Like they all have different collaborators.
Awesome.
So
Well, that I believe with all this said and done, we hope that we can see this work soon, very, very soon. And that said, I believe this concludes our Talk Deck Talk session today with EDMUND YEO, the director and producer of YASMIN SAN. We are honored to screen YASMIN SAN on the 15th anniversary of Yasmin Ahmad's passing. Yasmin Ahmad's works reflects the multicultural society of Malaysia, portraying the rich diversity and potential for integration without dwelling on racial differences or heavy social issues. Instead, she aimed to authentically present her environment, allowing audiences to glimpse the richness and harmony of Malaysia society. And yeah, once again, we are grateful to have the privilege to revisit Yasmin Ahmad's impactful creative journey through Edmund's very own work, YASMIN SAN. And this film will be screened on September 22nd at 2:30 p.m. For those who haven't bought tickets yet, please be sure to seize this opportunity. And if you have any question or if you need any latest updates and details regarding our events, please follow us on our social media. Yeah. And once again, thank you, Emma, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join our Talk Tech Talk segment today. Until next time, take care and let's keep talking that talk. See ya.